All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Demilitarized Zone, the one stream designed to help you feel better about engaging in hot-button issues. Our goal here is to teach discourse survival tactics, not just farm gotchas and dunks. We cultivate meaningful, intelligent conversation where you have to stop and listen to the other person, even if it is just to find the flaws in what they are saying. So, at least for tonight, please check your weapons at the door, take notes, act like grown-ups, and refrain from the blood sports and shit-slinging that have plagued our politics for far too long. But our audience does get a say here. There will be a link in the chat at the end of each debate where you can vote for a winner. So cast your vote, it is free after all, and exercise your democratic rights to decide which side made the most persuasive case. So, sit back, relax, listen up, and who knows, someone here might just change your mind tonight. Now, we're going to introduce tonight's debaters and judges, as well as the prompts. Tonight we will have 3 debates, starting out with the non-aggression principle should form the basis of all flaws. That is going to be between McGruff on the affirmative in the top with the yellow and Razor in the negative in the bottom right with the ears. Our second debate is going to be property damage qualifies as violence even without threat to human safety. That one's going to be a spicy grudge match, everybody, between Average Debate Enjoyer in the top left corner, aka Tyler, and Let's-Chief down in bottom center on the negative side. And then finally, is the social contract theory valid? That is going to be between Game Boy on the negative and the bottom, and probably DesperadoSensei, the cat in the cool hat, in the top center. Although we might have somebody who comes in later, they're running late, we'll see. Now, with that said, our format is a little different from other people's. We actually have timed sections. The way this is going to work is the affirmative is going to get 3 minutes to open, then the negative is going to get 2 minutes to ask them questions. Then the negative is going to get 3 minutes to open, and the affirmative gets 2 minutes to ask questions. Then I'm going to put 10 minutes on the clock for the two of them to just go at it as they see fit. During that time, if the judges have any questions that they want posed to the debaters, or if I have any myself, we will be messaging me directly. I won't message myself, don't worry. And after the open conversation aspect, I will then ask those questions to the debaters. They will then have 3 minutes apiece to go through their closing arguments. And I do reserve the right to add a little bit more time if in that 10 minutes the debaters are really cooking and I want to hear more. But with that said, the judges will weigh on a 10-point scale, which is to say they have a total of 10 points to distribute across the 2 debaters. I will have the audience vote, which will also go on a 10-point scale. So we're going to round based on the percentages. So it costs nothing to vote. I highly recommend you guys vote. Now, our first debate, we are going to go with Doink. Let me go ahead and put this up here. Control copy, because I wasn't sure which order they were going to happen in, to be honest with you. Prompt. And boom. Boom. All right. Save. And look at that. It's all easy and quick. I'm getting fucking better at this, kids. Not just the jankiest stream on this on the yes, and that is our Discord. For those of you who do not know, there is going to be an after party as well, so stick around for that. That'll happen after the debates are complete. That's where we get to go through and argue the points that weren't made during the debates. So, anyway, without further ado, our first debate. The non-aggression principle should form the basis of all laws. Now, we had our 2 debaters are McGruff in the Aff and Razor OG in the Neg. McGruff on the Aff. Good Lord Almighty. All right, McGruff, are you ready for your opening?
Yes, I am.
Good stuff. 3 minutes is on the clock. The clock will start when you start talking.
Picture this. Some people get to punch you in the face, steal your wallet, and call it public policy. If you or I do the same thing, we go to jail. That's the emperor strutting around butt naked and everyone too scared to laugh. The non-aggression principle, the NAP, is the honest kid in the crowd who yells, "Dude, the emperor has no clothes." In plain English, don't hit people, don't take their stuff. Let's define the NAP clearly. Aggression means initiating force, fraud, or coercion against another person's body or legitimately acquired property. The NAP says laws should only prohibit aggression and allow defensive force in response. Everything else, voluntary agreements, contracts, charity, markets, should be free from force. The alternative? Yeah, but the government should be allowed to hit people and take their stuff for the children. That's not philosophy. That's theft with a hall pass and a pension. Taxes, theft with paperwork. Conscription, kidnapping with a draft card. Regulations that force people to do something, coercion with extra steps. The NAP doesn't give special immunity people in suits. And the NAP is not the entire law book, it is a constitution, so to speak. Congress can write thousands of rules on traffics, contracts, whatever, so long as they don't violate the Constitution. The NAP is the same. Practical questions like who will build the roads or who stops invaders or who helps starving kids are valid and worth answering. Private companies, insurance, mutual aid societies, and just general civilians have had a stronger track record of doing these things peacefully and often better than any force ever could. But even if someone could show challenges in practice, that still doesn't make it okay to hit people and take their stuff just because it would be more convenient or ostensibly good. Convenience and good outcomes don't disprove the philosophy or ethics behind anything, whether that's the NAP or any other legal system. The law must be a subset of ethics. If something is morally wrong, it cannot be made right just because it seems useful. Ethics sets the boundaries, practicality operates within them. And even if someone says we need pre-crime laws for safety, like gun laws to prevent mass shootings, that doesn't justify initiating force against a still peaceful person. By arguing this, you presuppose the presumption of innocence is void. The only laws worth defending are the ones that don't require you to pretend the emperor's wearing a three-piece suit when he's clearly rocking his birthday outfit. Don't hit people, don't take their stuff. The emperor has no clothes.
All right. We're going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock now. We're going to look over at you, Razor. Razor, you've got 2 minutes on the clock to ask questions, cross-examination. Use this time as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you start talking.
Sorry, so I can do everything.
You're good.
Okay. So with the non-aggression principle, how exactly do you enforce? How can you enforce it against possible bad actors?
That's a bit vague. Do you mean someone who's already aggressed upon you, or do you mean someone who might aggress upon you?
Like what exactly do you like when we say non-aggression principle? Like, does it mean that no one is allowed to aggress against anyone, right?
Right. A la the universality principle. If you can't, if a rule has to apply to everyone, or it implies a contradiction.
Of course. So then, how would we enforce that without aggressing people who are bad actors who break that? Like,
Well, it's defensive force. If someone's breaking the NAP, it's well within the NAP's boundaries to use defensive force proportionally to defend yourself. Like if someone's trying to kill you, you can obviously you can use defensive force. That doesn't break the NAP.
is there a is there a limit or a say not a limit? Is there like a more defined understanding of what aggression would look like within this world of the non-aggression principle? Like,
Yeah, it would mean initiating force, fraud, or coercion against another person.
so if I were to if I were to say be a monopolistic company who says I'm not letting you have this house unless you are a slave to me, that's something that the NAP
Slavery is
would say no?
slavery is logically impossible. As
All
in,
right.
it's
And
you cannot willingly sell yourself into slavery.
All right, and that's
Mhm.
time. 3 minutes is on the clock for you, Razor. It's time for your opening. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
Okay, so the non-aggression principle, while a noble idea, is something that, in my view, is completely untenable. It's something that cannot be enforced. It's something that if you have a bad actor or a group of bad actors, like say a company with a CEO and his all of his friends, they could easily skirt around a lot of the non-aggression principle by saying, "I'm not technically aggressing. I'm letting people choose to work for me for pennies because they need the money." Now, obviously, there's the where he said that coercion is something that would be seen as an aggression, but that then we'd have a hard time figuring out what counted as coercion in this case. You'd have to go to courts for that, but what courts would there end up being? How would this non-aggression principle actually be enforced? The enforcement alone, the enforcement idea alone, um, seems to be something that breaks the non-aggression principle immediately, because in order to keep it up and keep people from screwing with everyone, you have to have some form of aggression to keep people in line, make sure that they don't aggress upon others, even if it's in a more of a preemptive way instead of a defensive way. It's like how we have multiple laws today, although many of them broken recently, that are supposed to be in place to make sure that companies can't just fucking take everything in the name. You can't just take everything. God, I want to say this word correctly. I don't know if I'd be able to talk any further without getting a nice back and forth. So I will cut my intro a little bit shorter. I need to be able to word this better.
All right. Well, in that case, we're going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock for you now, Groofus. Go ahead and cross-examine as you see fit. Control the time as you like.
All right, so just some quick yes or no questions. Are you currently arguing your position right now using your own body and your own voice without me forcing you to shut up, or without forcing you to speak or shut up?
Can you re-ask
No,
that? Because I'm
yeah, sorry, I phrased that badly. Are you arguing your position right now using your own body and your own voice without me forcing you to speak or shut up? There's no
Yeah.
trick in this question. So to make the case against the NAP, you must be in control of your own body and not have anyone initiate force against you to stop you from talking, right?
Yes.
So if we were next to each other, if I tried to punch you, gag you, or drag you off where we were talking to silence your argument, would that be wrong?
It would, and we would need to have and there would be some force against you in reaction to what it is that she did.
So you're telling me that in order to argue against don't hit people and don't take their stuff, you have to assume that no one can hit you or take your stuff while you're doing that.
No, I would have to assume that there's a sovereign above all of us that makes sure that we all stay in line and don't hurt each other for our own selfish needs and wants.
So you have to assume that, or you can't. Why are you arguing? Why are we here together? We can't. You have to assume that no one can hit you or take your stuff or stop you from arguing, because then you can't argue.
Because I was raised in a situation where I was raised in a country that has laws that make it where if you do it, you will get in trouble and I will get paid because you decided to aggress against me.
10 minutes is on the
Right.
clock. You
So
guys go ahead and just roll straight into your conversation.
Right. So we should be right. So if how do I phrase this? I'm having the same issue as you. I'm trying to
Yeah,
figure
I
out how to
get
phrase it.
it.
Um, yeah, I'm drawing a blank.
No,
If you want to
no,
go
believe I
ahead and make
understand that.
no, if you
So
want to try to make your
yeah,
point.
Yeah, no. So, the reason why I'm not for the non-aggression principle to be the basis for all of our laws is because there's so many loopholes to it. There's so many ways that people can, like, through, which is why we have lawyers with contract laws and everything who are able to, um, verbally dog walk a ton of people. So if someone's educated enough in the laws, no matter what the basis of those laws are, they can skirt around well enough to basically aggress against whoever they want, but then the law will, the letter of the law will let them just get away with it because, like, and I'm not, of course I'm not talking aggressing in the way of like I get to punch you in the face and then get away with it. No, it's more the coercion. It's more the coercion or or the theft of your stuff via legal means.
All right, so I would say the issue is yes, some lawyers are clever, but um
Most are.
but yeah, well, yeah, lawyers can be clever and whatnot, um, but the
Bunch
difference
of
is
like mystical fae.
but
Sorry.
here's the difference. In an app-based system, there is no coercive monopoly on law or law enforcement. A la the state does not have a monopoly on violence, meaning it does not decide solely. It's not the sole arbiter of whether or not aggression was justified. There are multiple different sites of. There are different can be multiple different private law courts. A la they have worked in admiralty and mercantilist systems in the past, and they have also worked in medieval Iceland.
So then
And if
the private court thing you're talking about there, that's
Mhm.
I think that's one of my biggest issues I would end up having with this NAP. It's that if someone is rich enough in, let's say, the Ancapistan type of thing, then I'm pretty sure
that
most
already
Liberians
happens,
are for in
it
favor
already
of. Like, it technically, yes, but we still have public judges who are just on the letter of the law and constitution right now. But if we're talking private judges, not private lawyers, private judges, then someone with enough money can just say, hey, we're gonna go to this judge because I pay them, kind of a thing. And then uh it's it ends up being kind of a constant loop, and then you just say, no, I'm going to go to my judge. It's like, oh, what money? You don't have the money for the judge. I've taken all the money because you liked my product so much that I now have all your money.
uh,
Like,
the the issue is that if you have it make having a monopoly on a coercive monopoly actually makes bribery easier. If you have a private law system,
Mhm.
it's actually much harder to bribe someone because you have, like I said earlier, multiple different competing law firms. You don't have or court systems. You will have, and it wouldn't necessarily only be. It wouldn't necessarily, or probably would never just be a single judge just presiding over a case. There would probably be professional jurors. There would be judge panels, somewhat similar to how the current SCOTUS works, although there would, like I said, also be professional jurors. And the issue with, and go back to bribery, if Judge A is known to take bribes, clients would simply not use that judge or not use that private law court.
yeah, and
Reputation.
another aspect with all these different possible judges and everything. You're saying like the NAP would be you're saying that the NAP would be the central thing that every single judge would have to follow if they were to be in the society, right?
Correct.
So then there would be
Like I said,
would there be an overarching law with it to understand, like, this is the reading you're supposed to have of what the NAP means, or is it each privatized judge has their
n-
own personal understanding of what the NAP actually means?
no. So it is a strict definition via. I'm going to end up using some jargon here because I can't avoid it, but law very similar to Locke's natural law theory, which like I said earlier is basically
Wouldn't common law theory be more understandable to where everyone is under the same common law, like there's no difference between whoever goes to who?
Sorry, I don't quite understand that.
Like if I remember, if I'm screwing up the jargon, I apologize. But
Yeah,
I
no.
remember the common law. I remember that common law is the terminology that most people use whenever they want to talk about all the different judges
Well,
talking about things. It's where we get most of our
yes,
Supreme Court ruling type of stuff.
yeah. So the NAP and the natural law would be at the top, and then common law would be below that. Like I said earlier, the NAP works like the U.S. Constitution. After the NAP, you can build off of it, and you can have
So you're
individual.
saying the NAP would be the foundation, and the common law would be how they're supposed to read it.
Yes, and there would be yes and no. There would be individual covenant communities, so to speak, that where you can where there are additional rules where everyone agrees via signing an actual contract, not the social contract theory. And if you
Yeah.
violate them, you while you weren't aggressing upon someone, you haven't violated the NAP, you would still be punished via social ostracization.
See,
A lot like. Sorry, I just want to finish this point really quick. A
yeah.
lot like how in academia, if you don't cite your sources, you weren't taken seriously and you were shunned, is very much into that same aspect and regard.
So like with this so with again, like a lot of this just wouldn't I don't feel like it would end up working, because if we're talking if you said like it would be in different areas would have different understandings of certain laws, this would end up limiting way too many people in terms of like where they can and can't go. One of the biggest reasons why we have the US Constitution and the laws that we do have, with the federal government being the overarching um I forget which amendment it is. I can't remember if it was like the 13th or
Describe it.
the 15th.
I
The
probably know.
one where the federal law can overwrite state laws if it
10th.
messes with
It's
that
either
is the
ninth or 10th. Yep, 10th.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So with that amendment, we have it to where states can do what they feel is best for their thing, but if it goes against a federal law that could like if it goes against a federal law that covers
Then it
the
gets
majority of
overturned.
people, yeah, in order to make sure that we keep on a consistent basis to where I can be in California and go have my weed with the at the abortion clinic, but if I go to Texas I get shot in the face if I'm brown. Sorry. That's me being stupid. Sorry, I had to make the joke
No,
once.
you're good. You're good. Yeah, so
But
no, so I understand the criticism, and the issue I would have is that uh are you trying to say that it wouldn't work because it's too decentralized? Oh, hi, Circa.
it's
Or
so decentralized. It's so decentralized that it would be very much a I live 500 person village, and they have one way of reading the nap, and then I would like go like 5 to 10 blocks over to the next 500 person village, uh, where they have a completely different understanding of what the hell that means. And I could get screwed over because like I had a ruling in one area that said that I can do X thing, but then if I go to this new town and say, "Hey, these people said I could do it this way," yeah, we do it different here. Like that's what ends up happening on a grand scale.
I would say that's actually a I'm gonna flip it on the head. I think that's actually the strength of I would say that's one of the strengths of a strict NAP society. If you can have people who all peacefully coexist in a society, in the world, you have while the NAP is I'm gonna go ahead and try to restart that because that was bad phrasing. The NAP is a universal consistency. No one may initiate force against peaceful people. But everything else, noise rules, build codes, etc. They can vary because it's built on top of voluntary agreements. I would say the state is the real source of any sort of inconsistency, because federal, like you said earlier, federal laws and local laws contradict each other. The different states have vastly
But that's
different gun
usually
laws.
that's usually in order to keep some consistency among people who are traveling state to state, because people don't want to just be stuck in one town or one city or one state their entire life. They want to be able to travel the world. They want to be able to travel their own damn country. So you need a overarching law that lets people travel wherever they wish without risk of their civil rights or their rights in general just being at the whim of whatever judge was having a cranky Tuesday and decided, "No, I don't want that. This is what NAP means now." Like, especially if they didn't get paid well enough by their rich oligarchic overlords in Ancapistan. Sorry, that was a thing. I'm sorry.
No, that's and he's basically saying that there wouldn't be consistency because judges can either be bribed or have a bad day, basically.
It would be too easy. The bribes would be easier than it is with with even what we currently have with the federal government. Yes, currently right now, like federal judges are being bribed, and we aren't prosecuting them like we should. But at least there's checks and balances with what we currently have to get them. We just have to have people who are willing to enact those checks and balances. That's the biggest flaw we have right now, is that people aren't doing that. But like with the NAP, it's impossible. It's impossible to do that. Those checks and balances would not actually exist, because although I love the idea of my fellow man and my fellow human all having the idea of, I want what's best for my next fellow man next to me. There's currently people out there who are saying they would willingly let their sons or daughters be fucking gunned down by the military because they say that humans should have human rights. I don't
All right,
see humans as being able to be together
can
in
I
that way.
respond to that really quickly? Because we only have a few seconds
Sorry.
left. Yeah, so there would be checks and balances in Ancapistan. There would be competition, like I've mentioned earlier. If one court is corrupt, biased, or unfair, people would switch to a competitor. You can't just bribe. If one judge or one's business is found out to be corrupt, you can switch. People who can just switch to a different, whatever you want to call it, a different business. There's also reputation. Like I said, also there's social ostracism, and ruling and contracts are. This is going a bit beyond your criticism, but I want to mention this anyways. Contracts, rulings, rulings of contracts are enforced defensively and only against proven prior aggressors by competing agency. If a public personal defense agency, which is basically the cops, overreaches, no other agency would cooperate. And decentralization ends up having multiple layers. You can have overlapping systems, one for courts, one for contracts, another for torts, a third for disputes between communities, etc.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and jump on in there now. We do have a question from each of the judges. No, actually, we have one judge who's asked a question from each of you. So that said, if the other judge does have any questions, go ahead and throw those at me when you get a chance. But I'm going to start with Grufus. So Grufus, In your system, who verifies the judges in question are placing the non-aggression principle over any other consideration in their judgments? So, in other words, who is the oversight committee for the judges to verify that the NAP is being used in all of the judges' judgments?
Well, the part of the idea is that there wouldn't be a single entity. There wouldn't be a like I said earlier, a monopoly on force, a la a sole arbiter of what is right and wrong, which is what the state is, which is one of the big reasons why I am an ANCAP. How long do I have? Because this could be a really long response.
Give me. I'll put a minute on the clock. Go.
Okay, so as I said earlier, the NAP is universal. It's a non-negotiable floor. We've covered that. I'll just move to the second point. The in who actually enforces and verifies the judgments, of course, private arbitrators and judges. You could also have what do you call it? You could have appeals courts still. There would be personal defense agencies if a court violates the NAP, or agencies refuse to enforce its judgments, protecting their own clients. Like I said earlier, there'll also be reputation and rating systems. Private companies track judicial performance, especially now that we have the internet. That would be much easier to track. There would be insurance companies who back people's protections, and I kind of wish we had gotten to this because that would be another good conversation. And community covenants and property owners would set rules beyond the NAP so long as they don't violate them.
All right, that's time. And for what it's worth, yes, generally the questions that the judges ask are things that it would have been better if you'd gotten to in the debate. So now we're going to look over to you, Razor. Question for you from the same judge. If you could somehow close the loopholes that you see in the NAP, would that make you more inclined to be the affirmative position? So in other words, the problems and the flaws that you have outlined in the non-aggression principle, do you believe that if you could find a way to close those, you would be inclined to agree? And same minutes on the clock for you.
I would have to say no still, because while the loopholes and everything are a big issue, it's also the fact that it's too much of a pie in the sky belief that every single human would choose to do the right thing at all times. They would choose to be charitable. They would choose to be wonderful towards their neighbor, regardless of what they look like. As we've seen in history, and right now, and currently with the current administration and the people who still support this fuck. There's way too many people who are willing to say that they would kill their own children because they disagree slightly on certain policies, or they disagree on who deserves human rights. So the NAP is, while a noble idea, is, even if there was no loopholes, is still putting too much faith in our fellow man to keep themselves from genociding each other.
All right, and that's time. So it looks like we don't have any other questions from the other judge, and I actually can save my questions for after the debate because I think that they're more going to be they're going to be a little more argumentative. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock. I'm looking at you, Groofus. You're going to go ahead and bring it home for us first. 3 minutes for you to use your closing. Go ahead and start whenever you're ready, and the clock will go with you.
Every single word my opponent has spoken today was and has been delivered peacefully. They used their own body to form their thoughts, their own voice to speak, their own time to stand here. No one punched them, no one gagged them, no one stole their notes. This is not an accident, this is ethics. If you argue to make a claim, including the NAP is wrong, you must presuppose self-ownership, so you control your own body to speak, and non-aggression. No one can initiate force against you to shut up. So the moment he opens his mouth to deny, don't hit people and don't take their stuff, he was already using the very principle he was trying to reject. That's not a rebuttal, that's a self-inflicted knockout. And here's the kicker. If the NAP isn't the basis of all laws, then initiation of force is okay sometimes, but they don't use force here. He didn't threaten me, didn't rob me, and didn't conscript me into silence. He chose peaceful discourse. Why? because deep down, everyone knows the emperor has no clothes. Look at him, strutting around in the stages of history, naked as the day he was born, waving the scepter of necessary taxes, essential conscription, and vital regulation. Everyone's been too polite to say it. My opponent has spent the whole debate pretending these clothes exist while standing here completely reliant on the naked truth they deny. The emperor has no clothes. He's butt naked, flopping in the wind, and we've been gaslighting ourselves into thinking there's a three-piece suit. Furthermore, I would say that Mike makes right is immoral because it is whoever has the biggest stick gets to decide what's right, and that's just organized theft and violence dressed up as law. And then there's mixed system, part not, part makes right, and that's a contradiction. Either initiating force is allowed or it isn't, and you can't have both. The second you allow even one exception, the NIP stops being printable and becomes a polite suggestion that the powerful can ignore whenever they feel like it. That's not justice, that's just surrender to coercion with extra paperwork. Even if someone says we need pre-crime laws for safety, gun laws to prevent mass shootings, that doesn't justify initiating force against a still peaceful person. By arguing this, you presuppose the presumption of innocence is void. The emperor has been naked this whole time. Time to stop clapping for imaginary tailoring.
All right. 3 minutes on the clock again. Razor, go ahead and use as much as you need to. Start whenever you're ready.
Apologies. Okay. Yeah, no, the non-aggressive principle, again, as I said with my answer to the judge's question, is realistically a noble idea. I'm not going to pretend that it's not. The problem is that implementing it is quite, as I've said, untenable. It's not possible to keep it going. It's way too easy to break. If you have enough money, you can say, "Screw the rules. You can go full Kaiba from Yu-Gi-Oh. Screw the rules. I have money." Um, uh, and sorry, I just always find the libertarian outros to usually be really funny. That wonderful, everything. I wouldn't say I wasn't aggressing. I mean, I was holding Mjolnir the entire time, but yeah, no, the non-aggressive principle is completely untenable, purely because it's putting the emperor has no clothes thing is the libertarian thinking that the emperor has on that three-piece suit, um with while pretending that everyone else is naked, it's pretending they have a three-piece suit while everyone else is naked. Wait, it's them because they don't seem to understand their own outcomes and ways that the world sees how they say. Fuck, words are hard for outro. Ugh. Just it's impossible because human nature and the way that humans are over generation, over history, and how we'd like to get around loopholes. You always make everything harder for everyone. It's just not possible to keep the NAP going, unlike with other ways to get things going. And this thing about uh might makes right, no one ever said that that is correct. It's more that you do need someone sovereign over most of a population, especially one as large as all of us, in order to um enforce and keep people in line so that they won't kill more people. It's a very utilitarian stance that I hold on to, and I will hold on to it till my dying breath
And is
until
that
proven otherwise.
that's time? All right. All right. So that is our first debate in the bag, kids. I'm going to go ahead and drop in the chat right now the link to the first poll. This should take you to a free website where you can just click yes or no as to who you think was the most persuasive of the two debaters. Not necessarily which position you inherently agree with, not which one you think has the prettier neon ears, but which one you think put in the best performance this evening. So that said, for those of you who are streaming on other platforms, feel free to go ahead and grab that from the chat, slap it into your chat, and see if you can get some votes from them as well. But while we're waiting for those votes to get tallied, I'm looking over at my judges. Yeah, this one. This one's going to be all you guys. AnCom, alphabetically, you're first. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Right,
so my decision, I think, is going to be fairly short here. I personally think Razor brought up enough problems with the ideas that Grufus was putting forward that I don't think he had solid answers to. So I'm going to give it to Razor 7-3.
7-3. All right. Well, 3-7. But yeah, I know what you mean. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and go. That was pretty quick and pretty easy, pretty painless. Cassell, looking at you, sir. You ready to render judgment?
Yeah, this one was kind of tough. I feel like Grufus had a pretty good intro, and then also the closings. I just think that edged out Razor a little bit too, but I kind of agree with AnCom. During the body of it, I just felt like a lot of those arguments were tougher for him to argue against. And I think for Grufus, at least, when he brought up the moral argument, I think that was a strong piece of his intro that he also mentioned in his outro, but he didn't bring that back up and kind of push that against Razor once again during the back and forth. So I had it a little closer. I said that Razor won it 6-4. I would have honestly probably had it 5-5, but I don't want to be a wuss about it.
Don't want to be that guy.
Even, so I'll pick a side. Yeah. So I'll give it 6-4. But I thought that, you know, the weakness of the intro and outro from Razor almost cost him. I just think those arguments he brought up were just a little too tough for me to see how Grufus argued against him. So that was basically what it came down to.
He did poke a few holes, didn't he? All right. So once again, then, I'm asking you guys out there in the audience to vote, and I'm looking forward to seeing what y'all decide, because those points do still count for the long-term tally. Just for those of you who don't know, we are keeping score long-term, so we can have a ranking system in place on the server, so we know who's consistently doing the best. So your votes do still matter for that purpose, but at least for deciding, it looks like, Grufus, I'm sorry, the win is going to go over to Razor tonight. That would be a let's see, 13-7 blowout. So we're going to go ahead and if everybody's done voting, y'all didn't have as much time to vote this time as usual because the judges didn't have that much feedback this time. But let's take a quick look and see how we're doing.
Well, Asgard.
Yeah, it was Mjolnir that did it for you, buddy. Dashboard. Non-aggression principle. There we go. All right. So the results looks like it is 57-42. So that is 6-4 for the no. 6-4 again. So it looks like you, it was a three-way blowout, Grufus. Your non-aggression principle is out the fucking door, buddy. All right. So.
Again, it's a noble idea, but it's just not tenable.
And I will reserve all of my feedback and comments until the to the after party, and we will get more into the meat of it at that time. I don't want to waste too much more time right now. We have sort of gone a little long, so I'm gonna say that I would like, if you guys are listening, circa, the guy who was supposed to show up did show up, but I've thought about it, and really Desperado came in clutch for me. I'm not going to kick him out of here. So we have another guy down there in the
2-on-1
in the other chat. No. Circa
2-on-1. I could do it.
Circa and this Vince Wilson guy, if they can find themselves some sort of a improv prompt that they can debate, I will give them a short form, like a 10-minute total debate after the main debates are over, to kick off the open panel after party. But I'm not gonna ask Desperado to come in here and help me out and then ask him to leave so that so somebody else can come in. So Desperado, you said that you were ready and you were able to do this debate. I'm still gonna save you for the third one because damn it, I'm looking forward to this Neg-LetsChief debate. Just to give everybody a little bit of preamble, a little warm up for this debate. This has been birthed and has been festering for a couple of months now. As most of you know, LetsChief is regularly a debate judge here. Tyler is one of our regular debaters, and there was a prompt that had to do with violence between the two sides, between the red and the blue. And long story short, the term property violence was brought up in that debate. And there was some contention over what that is and the validity of it. So I am not sure exactly how this debate is going to go. I have asked both debaters to do their best to not just make this a boring ass definitional semantic argument, but they might just do that. But do understand there is a little bit of spice here and there is a little bit of bad blood. So hopefully they're going to be able to keep it all good faith, and we're going to be able to keep this above board. So keep those shots above the belt for me. Now, this prompt is a little bit more long-winded. It is boom and boom. Okay. Oh, wait, get that over a little bit more. There we go. And hang on, kids. Shkaboof. There we go. Property damage qualifies as violence even without threat to human safety. Now, I will also go ahead and tell you guys that I had to really quibble over this fucking prompt because the two of them are debaters and nothing they love more than to debate the prompt itself. So, with that said, and without further ado, Tyler, are you ready? LetsChief, are you ready? Huzzah, just so you know, you are muted, Chief, whenever it gets to you. So, all right, 3 minutes is on the clock. Tyler, open when you're ready, sir.
All right, so to start this off, this debate about 2 months ago was about property, or was about violence from the parties, and what was brought up during it was we were talking about Black Lives Matter. In that initial, in the argument, I was arguing that Black Lives Matter was committing violent crimes against property. The judgment that was brought forth was that property violence being violence, like a violent crime, that's new and silly. Well, now we're going to go through the actual definitions of that. So what Black Lives Matter was doing, what I addressed was they were violently attacking vehicles, they were stealing vehicles, and they were burning down buildings, arson being the largest one here. That's factually false. Now, property violence and violent crimes are two different things. There's three different major categories of crimes. They are definitely two different things, but one can easily carry over into the other, and it depends on the context of what's going on. We have court rulings, we have precedent, we have law. So first we're going to start out with our, the clause here is threat to a person. Threat to a person has never been used by a court, is not part of the law. It was just something made up in the moment. What we actually look at here is 18 U.S.C. Code 16, both A and B, a crime of violence, an offense that has an element, a use, an attempted to or threatened use of physical force against a person or their property, not and their property. This is absent of threats. Now, if we go through different times when people have been convicted, I have precedent in here as well for that. What this means is, well, we also have limits. What we have in Sessions versus DeMaya are the limits on this. If somebody breaks into your house and breaking and entering, that is not considered a violent crime because the intent of their crime is a property crime. But if somebody goes to your house when you're not home and burns it down or throws grenades inside, when you're not home with no threat against the person, that is legally considered violent crime. 18 U.S.C. 844. That is a violent crime to burn down a house even though nobody is in it. That is factually true. There is no disputing it. We have tons of legal precedent. We have the 7th Circuit Court backing it up. Under these definitions of violent crimes, we can look at burglary. Burglary is considered by the FBI to be a violent crime despite the fact that it's a property crime because of the nature of somebody could get harmed in the burglary. There's a lot of nuance to this. Just because it's initially the property crime does not mean the context of the crime cannot turn it into a violent crime. And through this, I will give laws, I will give precedent, I will give court rulings, and I will give examples to show that I am factually correct here. Now, the bad blood between LetsChief and I was on truce last week when we came in here and smashed that IP debate, so let's hopefully keep that up. I have nothing against the dude. Hopefully he has nothing against me, but he's factually incorrect here, and I have the law on my side to prove it.
Okay, So I was willing to let you go a little bit over, so you didn't, but you were speaking at like fucking hyper speeds, so we're good on that. Now we're gonna go ahead and open. It looks like Chief is using up about 2 minutes of his opening to do this.
Wait, are we doing cross or no?
Oh yeah, no
Or are we just
shit.
open?
I'm sorry. No. Go ahead. Go. I forgot how the fuck I made this. 2 minutes is on the clock for cross examination. Chief, start questioning when you're ready, buddy.
Cool. So I hope the judges paid as much attention as I did during that open, because literally after he said the words threatened use of physical force, you said that's absent a threat. That was obvious. I don't know if you caught that. But then also, after talking about burglary and that being a violent crime, you said because someone could get harmed, and the yes, you did. You literally just said it. Run the tape back. You said you were rambling. I know it was.
That was
kind of,
burglary in
trying to
particular.
rush it through. Yeah, right. So you said because someone could get harmed in the act of doing it, and you just literally said it plain as day. So yeah, I agree that if someone could get hurt in the act, or there's a threat of someone getting hurt, like even first responders, like in the case of a fire, like yeah, that could be classified as a violent act. Thank you for agreeing with me.
A violent crime is, if this is cross, I'm supposed to be able to respond, I'm pretty sure. A violent crime is because first responders could show up and get hurt. So if I do vandalism and first responders show up to wipe the vandalism off the wall and the wall crumbles, vandalism is now a violent crime or no?
Do you think there's
That's
as
your
much
logic.
of an well, let me answer. You asked the
As much?
question.
No, it doesn't matter
Do
at
you
all.
think
It's just a
that
threat of
there's
it.
as much of a threat from inhaling the fumes from lots of spray paint as there is from having to respond to a fire, Tyler?
No, it doesn't matter if it's as much. It's just the threat of it existing at all would make it a violent crime.
Really, Tyler?
Yes, really. That's how the law works. You're using a
Really,
colloquial
Tyler?
definition. I'm using a legal definition. Yes, that's how the law works. I'm giving you U.S. codes. I'm giving you Supreme Court and Seventh Court rulings. Yes, that's how it works.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that those things could be violent because there's an inherent threat to human life, and of course, responding to a fire.
All
So
right.
if
So
somebody's
that's.
house accidentally.
That's time.
Oh, that's okay. That's yeah, that's time. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and put this up here real quick, and we'll go with it's. I assume it's in order, right, Chief? 1B or 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of like prep these clips. This wasn't like planned initially, but Tyler just couldn't help himself.
Sure. Time is going, so get it on.
Yeah, go ahead. Tyler just couldn't help himself.
I did a debate with him with one of the judges. I was talking about which party is more violent, the left or the right. I kept bringing up all this black.
As though I'm defending an argument that property damage is never violent crime. Go ahead, play clip 1.
I did a debate with him with one of the
1A.
judges. I was talking about which party is more violent, the left or the right. I kept bringing up all this Black Lives Matter incidents and how it doesn't fit into like the right definition, so everyone just excludes it, but it's technically violent crime. And the judge said, "Oh, trying to say property crime is violent crime, that's a new one for me. You lose because of that." So now that judge and I are having a debate that property crime could absolutely be a violent crime, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. I did a debate with him with one of the judges. I was talking about which party.
All right,
so
and
we're
then
going to
this
be
is the
doing a
second
debate
clip.
on this, and he tried to change the prompt
So
a few times to an
pause really quick. So remember that mischaracterization. Property crime is a violent crime. That's a new one to me. You lose the debate. Please remember that as we go forward.
Okay.
Next is
statement instead of an is statement, because once I linked, so we're going to be doing a debate on this, and he tried to change the prompt a few times to an ought statement instead of an is statement, because once I linked him the law showing him I was correct and started linking him court precedences showing him I was correct, he started squirming because the dude can't admit he's wrong, essentially. So
yeah,
we're going to have a fun one.
Yep. So pause again, please. So, he's just not representing the prompt properly itself. He then goes on to acknowledge that property and crime and violent crime are distinct. And in the same misrepresentation of the prompt, reiterates that using the example of arson, that property crime can't be violent crime. Go with 2A, please.
Specifically about property damage being included in the definition of violence.
Not generally, but it can be. Property and violent crime are two separate things in terms of categories, but there's a lot of carryover. It depends on the specifics. If I go burn down a building that's empty, it falls under, let me find it. It is 18 USC 844I, that burning down a building with fire or explosives is a property crime that's also qualified as a violent crime. So property crime can be violent crime. And his argument is it has to include the threat against a person in order for a property crime to be a violent crime.
And
No
you can let
court
the
has
next
ever
one
said that.
let it play into the next one. Go ahead. He actually agrees with the host.
It's like I think if you do an
here,
action
who actually
risky
says
enough that someone
that when it comes to threatening a human life, that does seem like it's characterized different. Go ahead.
because that someone could be harmed, right? Which would be the same thing as the arson thing, right? If you do an explosion, if you do an arson, I would think those are kind of treated in a similar way, in the sense that even if no one was harmed and maybe the building was empty, did you know that for sure? Do you know the fire couldn't have possibly spread? Do you know the explosion radius? Like, there's a bunch of things that could have happened in these cases. I'm assuming that's why that's treated differently than like breaking a building and like by throwing a rock through a window, right? Because it's an inherently dangerous act to light something on fire or like explode something.
So throwing a rock through the window like happens in a lot of riots.
So we're going to go ahead and call time there. Unfortunately, that was the entirety of your time, but I'm going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock.
He was going to grant me some extra time. I don't know if you wanted to kind of
if you want to finish your thought,
because that part of it was not even a planned part of my intro. I didn't even that was completely unplanned. But I didn't think that Tyler would just nod along and lose the debate right before we came on stream.
So I feel like his words there kind of spoke for him, and you were able to narrate as you were going along. You guys will get into more of the meat once you get to the meat, but I'm going to give 2 minutes on the clock for the cross-examination here, Tyler, and I guess this is your opportunity to sort of respond and defend yourself and articulate that.
So thank you for posting my W's. That lines up with pretty much my entire introduction that you just posted. But I'm going to quote what you said on the stream. Back to Tyler. Property violence. That's a new one for me. I like how you tried to make that work, but in the end, it's just silly. Is that not what you said? Exact words verbatim.
Exact words verbatim.
Yes or no?
I didn't say. Did I say it was just silly? I don't
yes,
think
exact
so.
words verbatim. I typed it down. I watched. Okay. I typed it down verbatim. Anyone can go check the last stream. That's exactly what you said, and that's exactly what I quoted when I was on there. So there's no bad thing.
So we've heard your characterization of that debate twice. But what happened was, the prompt was the Republican Party of America is more prone to violence than the Democratic Party, correct? So we heard Cassell list off a slew of right-wing fueled ideology shootings, and you were completely, it completely does. You had some preamble. You got to misrepresent this debate twice, so now it's my turn to talk about it. So we got to Cassell list. Okay, well, it's actually cross-ex. So you're
filibustering. I asked you a direct question, and you're going off topic to a different debate. That's verbatim what you said. You said that was bad faith.
Yeah, I was supposed to be granted.
You're lying. You won't even accept your own words. You won't even accept. You're saying the words that I quoted you verbatim were wrong. You're not even accepting what you said.
It's silly. This is important. It's silly because it's silly to compare some amount of dollars of property damage to a pile of bodies that Cassell brought when trying to demonstrate that the Republican Party is more violent than the Democratic Party.
Okay, I get you feel that way.
You wanted to use 2 months of riots.
Reclaiming my time. Reclaiming my time.
Okay,
reclaiming my time. This isn't the question I asked you. Reclaiming my time. This isn't the question I asked you. What I asked you was, were those your words? You said, no, I quoted you verbatim. You're lying. That's bad faith. You are dishonest.
Oh, no. It's bad faith. You completely misrepresented the prompt of the debate earlier. I actually admitted, I said you could have taken the compliment and the L. I said it was a brilliant stroke of rhetoric that after essentially you were clearly falling short of delivering on any metric on par with the countless acts of violence ratted off by Cassell. This was clearly a Hail Mary. And you said that you didn't see any instances of. You said you didn't see any instances of right-wing violence, even altogether combined, even coming close to the damage done after George Floyd died. And that alone tells you that hundreds of thousands of people committing billions of dollars in property violence, a phrase that you never uttered before in that debate, was directly linked to the Democrats.
Just because
So
property violence is a violent crime according to the law.
correct.
According
It
to
is.
judges, according to the courts. Yes.
It
so
is,
that's the problem.
but you were
It's just
trying to
one
make it
threat against
out
innocent.
that all of the damage done in the riots was property violence, and you were trying to use that to prove that those 2 months of riots make the Democrats more
Making shit up.
likely. No, that's literally what
You're
happened.
just making shit up. You denied your own
you were
words, and now
creative
you're
in your
making up
rhetoric, but
words
you were
I never
wrong.
said.
You didn't
You're
lose
denying your own words. Now you're making
lose-
up shit I
You
didn't say.
didn't lose the debate because I reject the concept of property violence altogether. We saw
Okay,
the
again, 18
misrepresentation a minute
USD
ago.
844.
That's fine, I don't
burning down a
listen,
building with
that's
nobody
fine.
in it. Is that property? Is that a violent crime or not?
Yes.
Then you don't need the threat of a person because you're burning down an empty building. That's considered a violent crime.
inherent threat on life, and that's
So if
just a
somebody
fact of the matter.
accidentally lights a fire and the police come there and the ambulance comes there, they have the same
An
exact threat against
accident?
it. Yes.
You're comparing
Is that
an
still a
accident to
violent crime?
arson?
It's
No.
not. That's
An
not how violent
accident-
crimes work.
No, an
Violent
accidental
crimes
fire.
don't
You're
work
right.
like
An
that.
accidental arson, an accidental fire is not arson. You're correct.
This is just complete ignorance of the law.
100%.
You're making shit up. This is a colloquial definition
you
that
know
does
this.
not
We
work.
just
According
watched
to
you
United
say it
States
and
versus
agree to it.
Ferguson, just watching
commission
United States
of a
versus
property
Ferguson,
crime.
7th Circuit Court decision using 18 U.S. 3 844I said that lighting a building on fire, even though there's no threat to human life because the building is empty, is a
Because
violent
there's
crime.
a blatant disregard for life.
Okay, that's not the prompt. That it's a disregard. You said a threat, not a disregard. Those are two different things. You're conflating and you're lying about your own words and my words from the previous debate.
Disregard
It's
is the
dishonest and bad
absolute
faith.
minimum.
You are incapable of telling the truth. You
You're
lied
crazy
about
right
your
now.
own words, and you're accusing me of lying when you're making shit up. I quoted you verbatim. You said, no, that's not what I
sticking
said.
on the lying about your own words when I was just unsure of the exact quote from a debate that happened 2 months ago that you're clearly still obsessing over isn't bad faith. I'm
Bro,
sorry.
I said
just don't
no.
remember
You
my
kept
exact
asking me.
quote.
We got
sorry,
into
I
a
don't
chat about
remember the
IP,
exact
and you
quote.
argued about this for like
I
an
didn't argue
hour.
about
We
it.
moved on.
Horseradish said I trolled you and we laughed about it. It
Oh,
was
yeah,
fine.
yeah. I'm obsessed
You
about
got
it, but you were the one that was
completely
beating it up over and over. That makes sense. This is projection.
Yeah, I brought
because
it
you're
up. That's a
dishonest.
joke.
Yeah, it's a joke when you do it. It's obsessed when I do it. You're fucking dishonest. That's all this is you're dishonest and incapable of admitting when you're wrong.
We'll let
You
the
just
audience decide.
granted.
You're so
You
worked
just
up.
you
You're so
just
worked
granted 18 USC 844I means no threat against a person from the actual crime itself can still be considered a violent crime. That's the debate right there. You were factually
What did you
incorrect.
agree to with Cassell that these things are treated differently because you don't know if the fire could spread or first responders could get hurt
confluent.
or you? Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
He was theory crafting, and I nodded to what he said. That doesn't mean I was saying you're 100% correct.
So you
You're
disagree?
No, I don't. Those are some.
But, yeah, of course you don't disagree.
It's obvious you don't disagree. I'm not nodding on and saying that's my line of logic.
An accidental
I'm
fire
not
is
nodding
different.
on. That's
An
not my
accidental
line
fire
of
is
logic
different
that
from
I'm
an
arguing.
arson.
You're taking me riffing with a couple buddies and pretending like that's the argument I'm making here because, again, you can't stop lying.
What we watched was you talk about how you had a 10-page document and 2 pages you were going to talk about, and then the fucking joy wiped from your face when you admitted or when you saw Confluence destroy your argument in fucking 30 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that must be it. You're reading my mind well while lying. You lied about what you said. You lied about what I said. Now you're just making shit up again. I'm giving you U.S. code. I'm giving you, unless you won't even let me finish the statement because if I am allowed to talk about the actual law, I am 100% correct. You cannot refute it. Yes, you
are violent.
Then that's the point. Without
the debate isn't some property crimes aren't violent or there's no property crime.
The debate is without the threat.
You misrepresented it twice. I don't know if you're still confused about your misrepresentation
without the threat
when you
to
were
a
trying
human
to
being.
brag to your
Without the
fucking
direct
friends
threat
about
to a
it
human
and
being.
misrepresent
You're
it, but that's just
lying
not the
again.
case.
Could you please restate the prompt for us, Horseradish? Because I'm literally giving it over and over, and this
property damage qualifies as violence, even without threat to human safety.
Yes.
There's no threat to human safety in an arson.
When you burn down an empty building, there's no threat to human safety from the crime. Now, if the first responders show up to put out the fire, there is a threat to them. But that's not the crime. That's the aftermath. That's a completely different fucking thing. You're conflating two things because you don't know the law. I'm giving you Supreme Court precedent, 7th Court rulings, and the laws, and you cannot refute them. The government.
Who's charging them?
Every fucking president. This has been going on since the 80s.
The government's charging them for an abandoned property.
Yes.
Because their first responders could get hurt.
No, because it's a violent crime. The action itself is a violent crime. You have no
Okay,
idea
so
what
we'll
the
not
law
think
is.
about what violent means, and we'll just say good enough.
We know what violent
crime.
means. It's defined in the law.
Yeah, as
A
a
violent
threat to
crime is
safety.
defined in the law that I
A
read off
threat
in my
of
introduction.
force.
You're just
Yeah, a threat
ignoring
of force
it. You're
that you
ignoring
immediately said that is absent of threat.
a threat of force that is a force against a person or their property, not and their
Right.
property or
Right,
their
and
property.
you know what a good instance of that would be, like domestic violence. Like if I break my phone by myself, that's not a violent crime. But if I'm arguing with my girlfriend and I break my phone in front of her,
That's still not a
that's
crime.
essentially a threat. That's a
That's
threat
not
to
a
them.
crime. That's not a threat.
It's not a threat for me to damage my own
No.
property
Yes,
in
it's
front.
not a
Okay,
crime.
cool.
You're wrong. You're making shit up again.
All right.
Yes, that's not a threat.
I could
gave
throw
you
shit
Sessions
around my
versus
house, and it's my
Diama,
house,
which
and I'm
sets
not.
the
I'm not
Sessions
threatening.
versus
I'm not
Diama. You
threatening
can
any.
filibuster and
I'm not
talk over me
threatening
all
my
you want,
partner.
but you're factually wrong. Sessions versus Diama gives us the criteria of what makes a property crime into a violent crime. I led that off to you. You cannot address that. You cannot address these laws. You just admit to them, and you're saying, well, it's because it's a threat to the first responders. Driving there is a threat to the first responders. That would make every crime a violent crime by that stupid fucking logic, because they can get in a car
No,
accident.
you're
on the way
taking
there.
it to an
Yes.
extreme, and
I'm taking your logic and I'm applying it to
and-
something else. It's your
No,
logic
you're
is
you're
retarded, and this
taking it
shows
and
it.
you're running as far as you can with it to
You're
try to
making
run it
shit up.
into
That's not the
absurdity.
law. I'm
You're just
giving you the
making it
laws.
absurd.
I'm giving you the laws, and you cannot refute
That's
them.
fine. The original prompt wasn't a legal fucking theory. It was that Republicans are more violent, and you wanted to take
This isn't
2
about
months.
that prompt. This is about
It
your
literally
response, your
stemmed from
one-word
that.
response
It
that you
literally
denied.
stemmed
You're
from
running
that.
from the topic because
It's
you
not
cannot
running
win
from the
this by
topic.
being honest. I'm giving you
No, you're
these
so
slam
upset.
dunk answers to show you, and you're running from
It's
it,
not slam
interrupting
dunk.
me.
You're just
You can't
admitting
even
to
let me get a
being
sentence
incorrect.
out without talking over me because you cannot stop lying. You are a dishonest actor.
That's just
I'm
been the
giving
tone
you
of this whole
Sessions
debate.
versus Diama. I'm giving you
If you're
18
just-
U.S. Code 16A and
Okay,
B. I'm giving
some
you
property crime
18
could be
U.S.
violent.
Code 844I without the threat to a
Tyler,
human.
some
Yes.
property crime could be violent.
Without
It's
the
okay.
threat to a human, yes or no?
Some crimes,
Yes or no? Without the
some
threat to a
crimes
human,
carry
yes or
an
no?
inherent threat to
Answer
human
the
life,
question.
and
You're
some
dodging
crimes
because you
carry
cannot
an
respond.
inherent threat to human life, like arson.
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah, an
necessarily
inherent.
mean that.
Thank you for
It
thank you
doesn't
for
mean
saying
that.
yes.
I've heard.
Thank
I'm
you for
acknowledging
saying yes,
I
that
heard
it
you.
and
I'm
yes,
saying yes
an
because I'm
inherent-
saying I heard you. That's all.
whatever.
But you cannot you're so dishonest that you take me acknowledging that I heard you as me giving up the prompt. You've already admitted you're wrong.
That's okay if you misspoke and accidentally agreed to me.
I
and
did
had
not.
to-
I would say
had to
yes because I
recover.
heard what you
It's
said.
fine.
Where you're talking over me every time I speak, because as soon as I'm allowed to actually state my case, there's nothing you can say to defend
You're
it.
just repeating the same thing and calling me
Yes,
dishonest.
because you're not addressing
Tyler.
it. I'm not going to stop repeating it until you can actually address it. You keep changing the subject. You keep going to a
I
different
keep
prompt.
saying that some violent crimes, some property crime is violent.
Stop
What
lying.
more do you want than that?
Stop lying. I'm telling you what I want. I've asked the question 9 times, and you just accused me of repeating myself without answering the question. If you burn down a building with nobody in it, it is considered a violent crime, even though there's no threat from your
Yes,
action.
arson is an inherently violent crime because of the threat to life.
Even if the building's empty, yes?
Even if it's empty, because
Yes.
as you nodded along to confluence, you don't know if the fire is going to spread. You don't know if an occupant might come back or a
Even if
homeless
it doesn't,
person
though.
sleeping inside.
But that's
Nobody-
not the law. That's a conversation I was having with a buddy. He asked a question. That is not
is
what I'm
law.
saying here.
That's
You're
100%
making
the
shit
law.
up. You're pretending like me chilling and chatting and answering somebody's question is the argument I'm making
All I'm
here.
doing is
because you
clarifying
cannot
the
beat this
inherent threat
argument.
to arson.
You
It's
cannot
completely
beat
honest.
this argument. That's why you keep changing the fucking
I'm
subject. It's
acknowledging the
dishonest. You
inherent
are
threat
a
to
liar.
human
You
life.
are a
You can repeat it
liar.
all you want.
I
Repeat
am
it all you
because
want.
you're dodging. There's no threat
It's not
if you
a
burn
dodge
down
to
an
say
empty
that there's-
building. If there's
Right.
no buildings around, there's one
Yeah.
building in the middle of a field and you burn that down with no threat to any other buildings, completely surrounded by cement, so the fucking the fire can't spread. That is still a violent crime based on 18
It's still a
USC
violent crime
844I.
because it's just a blatant disregard for human life. Nobody knows that
No
there's
humans are
occupants,
in
that
there.
No one's gonna come back.
An abandoned building.
That's
Still a violent
in
crime, even
retrospect,
though there's no threat to human life.
because it's the crime itself is an inherent threat to human life.
But there's no threat and he can still be charged. See, that's the thing. It's every other law When there's no threat to human life, you can just charge it as a property crime. But arson, you can't. It's always a violent crime, even if there is no threat to a human
Because
life.
it's
Every
inherently
single
dangerous with a
time.
high risk of injury to first responders or unknown occupants.
That's not what jurisdicts a violent crime. You're adding a clause that is not the law. Can you cite the law that says that? Can you cite me anything that says that?
No,
because the courts have never taken your position.
Attempted use or threatened use of
Can you give
physical
me a
force
single
against
instance?
a person or property?
Can you give me a single instance where the courts have taken your position? Because it doesn't fucking exist. You're making it up on the fly.
I'm not making it up on the fly.
No, can you give me a single instance? I'm asking you a question.
I'm agreeing.
Can you give me a single instance? Yes or no? Give me the instance.
I agree with all your citations of certain crimes that are
one instance. Stop dodging. Answer the fuck. Answer a single
I'm telling you, I agree with your citations.
And you give me one instance where what you're saying has actually happened.
I don't disagree.
So dishonest, dude.
I don't disagree.
Answer the question. One instance. Yes or no?
I don't disagree.
Yes or no? Stop changing the subject. Can you give me one fucking instance? Yes or no?
You're purple, dude. Look at you. Holy shit.
It doesn't fucking matter. Stop ad-homing. Stop changing the subject. Answer the fucking question. Yes, dishonest people that constantly lie through their teeth piss me off. You are a dishonest actor, and you can't answer a single fucking question because nobody It is fucking sad. Stop lying.
I'm not lying. I agree with your.
You are.
I agree
one
with
instance,
your
yes
citations.
or no? Answer the question. One instance, yes or no? Has a court ever ruled what you're saying is true?
Ruled what I'm saying is true.
Yes
I'm
or no?
With your court
yes
citations.
Or no?
Why do I need to bring a citation when I'm agreeing with your citations that I'm
My citations say that you're wrong.
Arson is an inherently violent crime because of the threat to human life.
That's not what they say. That's not what they say. You're making that up.
That is why it is an inherently violent crime.
You're editorializing them. No, it's not. Throwing a grenade into an empty house is also a violent crime. Even if nobody gets hurt, nobody's there, there's no threat to human life from throwing those grenades in somebody's house. The first responders are completely safe because the grenades have already gone off. So your fucking stupid theory's out the window. Still a violent crime.
Right. So you could walk into a house after that you've had known explosions in, and there'd be no perceived threat. There'd be no perceived threat after explosions inside of a house. No risk to first responders. That's fucking rich. You're doing everything retrospectively.
The same as breathing in from a fire? The same as breathing. So no. The threat from the first responders driving there is higher.
You tried to say it was.
Can you let me fucking get a sentence out?
Fucking.
Can you let me get a fucking sentence out? You can't even let me get a sentence out.
You should be embarrassed by this.
When a grenade goes into a house and explodes, the threat to the first responders is lower than the threat from getting in a car accident on the way there. And it's still a violent crime. You're just making shit up. It doesn't carry over to any other fucking example that I'm giving you. You're saying you're agreeing with my citations, but the citations are proving you wrong. So if you agree with my citations, you're giving up the prompt. If you don't agree with my citations, that's why you keep editorializing them. You're not agreeing with me. You're lying. I'm giving you all legal precedent.
I'm literally telling you why it's inherently a violent crime, and it's strictly arson that you're going.
Yeah, I get that you're making that up, and I'm giving you the actual reason. You're saying I'm agreeing with that, and then giving me a different reason. It's because you're dishonest. You cannot stop lying. You denied your own words. You pretended I knew what my words were. You've been lying the entire time.
I literally quoted your words.
Yeah, you did, and then you editorialized them after. You quoted things that I said in my introduction for the first part. I literally quoted you verbatim. You said, that's not what I said. I never said that.
I said I'm not sure if that's what I said because I didn't watch the debate from 2 months ago.
When you answered somebody's off-topic question, that's what you're saying right now, even though you didn't say it at all in this debate. Yeah, that's true. You're so fucking dishonest. You cannot win this by being truthful. That's why you're deceitful.
That's wild. Wild characterization
from
the beginning to the end. Before you even got on stream, you were making wild characterizations.
USC code 16 A and B. Back what I say. USC.
And it's strictly arson because arson is an inherently violent.
That's not the arson one. You don't even know what you're talking about. That's
no, I know 18 code US 16, the fucking crime of violence definition. No, we got it. It's attempted use of physical force. We got it.
Yep, and I got Sessions versus DeMaya. I also have U.S. States versus Ferguson.
You can say the names
of what United States versus Ferguson was?
Just keep repeating
it was somebody burning down an empty building. That's crazy. Somebody burned down an empty building. The fire didn't spread. There was very minimal threat to the fucking people outside with hoses. Still considered a violent crime. Even if first responders don't show up, If first responders don't show up and that building burns to the ground like it did in
That's
Minneapolis during the Black Lives Matter riots,
It's like
still
the
a
word
violent crime.
inherently means
Still a violent
something.
crime. Yeah, I know, right?
Inherently
No
violent.
threat to people. If you're saying it's inherent, even though there's no threat to people, you're conceding the prompt. I've already explained this over and over. You're saying it requires a threat of harm to people. If first responders don't even show up, if they don't even show up, it's still a violent crime.
It's inherent with
If
arson.
there's no threat,
It's your only
there's
example,
still a
and it's
violent
inherent with
crime.
arson.
It doesn't matter if it's just one example or many. I'm using this one because it fits the context of the debate, but you're admitting you're fucking wrong and you don't even know it because you don't know what the fucking laws are.
And time. So I'm going to be real. I was afraid to jump in there because this debate is violent. All right. So I do actually have questions from the judge. Again, at least one judge is brave enough to fucking jump in here with this. It's a little long-winded, so bear with me. We're going to go to Chief first this time. Would you consider smashing open a window of a store that is closed, but in which workers are still inside, though far enough from the window that there's almost no chance of them being harmed, to be a violent act? I'm going to read that again. Oh, that's that simple. Just a simple yes.
Yeah, it's threatening them. Yeah, definitely. It's threatening behavior.
Even
people,
despite you did catch the fact that they are far enough away from the mirror or the window.
Far enough from the glass, that's fine. No,
but it's still a violent act.
Definitely a threat to them. Yep.
Okay, cheers. And now question to Tyler. Maybe you'll be able to do it as quick and succinct as well. Do you consider grabbing another person's phone and throwing it into a pool, despite the fact that there is no danger to their life or well-being, and it's known that they have accident insurance on the phone, to be a violent act?
Well,
so in other words,
insurance part of
well,
yeah,
knowing that there's no cost threat to them is the idea there.
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant if it costs zero, if it was a gift or whatever.
Okay.
That's irrelevant to the question. I don't. Fuck, that's a hard. I'm not a lawyer, man. I borrowed my entire arguments from like lawyers, Supreme Court shit.
You personally, based on your understanding, though.
I would say no. I would say that. Fuck, I don't know. What's the context of it? Did they say, "Give me your phone, or I'm going to punch you," or they just walk up and snatch it? Because
no context, just walking up, grabbing a phone, and throwing it into the pool.
Yeah, larceny, theft, those are crimes of property. If you hurt the person or threaten the person to do it, then yes, that would. Burglary is a weird one because it does actually require what he's saying, and that's where I think he got this. Is he read just burglary and assumed that was the law in total because he doesn't know the laws. But yeah, burglary, theft. If you do threaten, that's when that actually elevates to that level. Arson's not like that.
Okay. All right. I think that definitely got to the meat of the question that the judge was trying to ask.
Really threw it in the pool
it's question to you?
With the partner.
That's your question? I thought it was my question.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. So, all right. Now I'm going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock here. I am so excited to see how this goes. 3 minutes to you, Tyler, first. Go ahead and close it down for us, bud.
All right. So as we can see from the initial, he denied his own words. He tried to go back to a prompt that isn't the prompt for this debate. He misquoted what I said, saying that me nodding along to Confluence about his off-topic question somehow has anything to do with the debate that I delivered here tonight. And then on top of that, he misquoted the laws to say that he was in favor of them. If you accept I'm right about 18 U.S. 881 or 844I, then you accept that you lose this because there's no threat to a person that's not in the building. When you burn a building down in isolation, with no threat to it spreading, with no first responders there, it's still a violent crime, regardless of the lack of threat. It being inherent still gives up the prompt. Inherent doesn't matter because it still gives up the prompt. It's irrelevant because that particular instance did not show any threat to a person. There's other crimes that could be property crimes, but could also be violent crimes when the context fits. That is the threat to the person that you may be confused about. But this particular crime does not require threat to a person to be a violent crime. You are factually incorrect. The Seventh Circuit Court ruled with me on this. The Sessions versus Denia gives us the criteria how to make a property crime into a violent crime. It's exactly as I stated in this debate. None of that was addressed. All he said is, I'm agreeing with these laws that I can't even repeat back to you, and I cited to you improperly. It's just been dishonest tactic after dishonest tactic, shifting the conversation, shifting the narrative, denying his own words, putting words in my mouth that I never said in this debate. It's all dishonest. This is the most bad faith bullshit I've ever seen. And when I asked for a single example of a law or a system or a court ruling backing what he said, he just dodged the question 15 times and accused me of repeating myself over and over. when trying to nail him down, his slimy ass down on a single yes or no question. This is bad faith, dishonest lying, and I hope the judges can see through this shit because I got ick on me from fucking dealing with this shit for so long. I don't need 3 minutes. We're done.
All right. 3 minutes on the clock for you now, Chief. Your turn. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
All right. So if you angrily threw your partner's phone in the pool after an argument, that's domestic violence. Some property crime can be property violence. It's crazy that we watched Tyler speak about the debate in advance with Confluence, and then for him to say that Confluence's question was off topic. We literally watched them speaking about the debate. It's completely on topic. Tyler thought I saw that no overlap between property crime and violent crime. That was never the case. I acknowledge some property crime can be violent, and that line is when people come in harm's way. And with things like arson, the one crime listed, there's an inherent threat of harm to people, and that's why it is a violent crime, even when no one's there, because these are kind of like retrospective judgments of what happened. It's insane to hear Tyler give us talk about being given the ick during this conversation when he's been misrepresenting the conversation tonight before it even started. And let's quote Tyler. I don't need the 3 minutes either. Let's quote Tyler one more time from that previous debate 2 months ago that he's been hung up on since. And you could kind of guess what group of people Tyler's talking about, and if that gives you the ick. And this is a side. Don't use this to judge the debate. Just use it to judge the person. Quote, "We see the most murderous group of people in the country. We have one political party lying on their behalf to pander for their votes and for their funding." I don't know what group he's talking about, but I don't know if I want to be in that guy's circle. And that's my time.
Okay, so I have to say, to be honest with you, this was definitely the most entertaining debate I have seen in a long time, regardless of how the judges, and I do not fucking envy them, judge this. I am going to drop a link here in the chat for the audience to go ahead and put their vote in. And everybody, if you are streaming, please go ahead and grab that, put it into your chat as well, so that everybody can get the chance to vote. Once again, this was you definitely fucking nailed it there, Tyler. All right, I'm gonna look at you this time first, Cassell. Are you ready for this?
Oh God, I don't know if I am.
I hear you, but do your best for us.
I'll say I think you guys put on a really good show. At one point, I thought you guys actually did dislike each other, but I think we all know that was just an act. You guys are actually really good friends. I think during the debate, it was tough because when Bradish pointed this out to me last week as a topic, I couldn't decide myself. I really didn't know which way I would go with this, and I still didn't know coming into it, and I honestly still didn't know coming out of it. But I have to make a judgment from this anyway. I think that personal things aside and bringing in previous kind of conversations or whatever you think may be hypocritical, I kind of like leave that out of things, even if it's useful to the conversation. I kind of wanted to just see like points from both sides, and I think Tyler brought a lot of good at least constitutional aspects, actual judgments and rulings, and I think that Let's-Chief also brought on good points about actual real life examples that come into play and how things differ and how the law interprets them differently. So, for example, there are examples where there, and I think LetsChief even admitted this, that there is property violence that is considered a threat to human safety, and then there are instances where it's not. And so I think that's why it's such a tough topic in general, is because there are so many things out there that you could say, well, this is this and this is that. And I think that's what the conversation was. It's like, well, you're wrong because this, and actually, no, you're wrong because this. And so I think it got lost in some of the personal anecdotes here and there, which made it kind of hard for judgment. And so it's really hard for me to even like render a verdict on this and come up with like points here. And I don't want it to come out as biased or anything here. So I'll just say this. I think it was a really great debate. I actually really did enjoy it, even though it could be heated at times. And I really think both of you had legit arguments. The only thing that I would say, and I'd give it 6-4 to Tyler, is just that I just wanted to hear more of like more concrete examples. And I think LetsChief had the arguments on his side, and I think he could have done more in that space to kind of bring like what in real life has happened that can prove me right. Even if this lawsuit that Tyler's citing makes sense, well, what can I cite to prove him otherwise, or to showcase something to the judges as a real life example? So that's really all it came down to. I think I enjoyed both of you guys, and if I just had to make a ruling on this, that's how I decided on it. So
all right, 6-4 to Tyler. Now, AnCom, where did you land on this, buddy?
This one was difficult for me. So just for clarification, I asked both questions, both of the questions to Chief and Tyler here. And what was interesting is not only did they both give me answers opposite of what I expected, LetsChief went further to give his opinion on the question I didn't ask him, which made me even more confused, because in both cases, I was intending to ask questions in which there was no real threat of harm to an individual. Both of those times, one in which I thought it would be classically thought of as violent, and one in which I thought it would be classically thought of as not violent, but in which there was no threat or no real threat to humans in either case. So the fact that Chief answered to the opposite of what I imagined his point to be makes me wonder, like, how strongly he is adhering to that position and answering the question. Same with Tyler, although Tyler was a little bit more uncertain as to his response. And so at the very least, it kind of gave me a better understanding that while he holds the position, he had some confusion about it. So because of that, and the fact, although I am also taking into account the fact that while LetsChief pointed out how upset and yes, purple-faced Tyler was getting, he shot back that that's an ad hom, which is a great call out of that. The problem is he was calling LetsChief a liar and dishonest repeatedly, even though there was nothing I saw that LetsChief was actually saying dishonestly. So it was similarly an ad hom, but in Tyler's case, it was a baseless ad hom. So as you can see, this is a very difficult one for me. I am having an incredibly difficult time putting one above the other in this, because I think they both had really strong arguments, and they both had pretty significant pitfalls in their argumentation. I hate having to do this. I truly do. I cannot find enough light between them to give it to either one of them. It's got to be a 5-5 tie, and I hate it.
We've got a
I am
judge.
so sorry to both of you.
That's
we can
okay.
leave it to the audience if you want.
Yeah, I was
to
about to say that's what's happening. We're
consider.
It's leaving it to the audience either way, ultimately. So
I mean, yes, either way.
If AnCom,
unless I went for Tyler, it would be leaving it to the audience. But as I know the points also count here, I don't want to artificially take a point from Tyler and give it to Chief.
For sure. So once again, every single one of you out there, please click that link and vote on who you thought was the most persuasive debater in this argument. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for who was the best debater, not which you agree with, not who you think was prettier, but who you thought brought it tonight. And it does ultimately tonight on this debate going to fall into the hands of the judges. I mean, by that, I mean the audiences. So hopefully we've all gotten our votes in. Let's take a look. I'm going to give it about 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5,
The correct
4,
answer is that I'm the prettiest.
3, 2, 1. All right. So we have got our votes tallied. And once again, it is, fuck me, 60-40 for the negative. So that means that we now have an actual tie. We have an actual tie. Yeah, so that was absolutely awesome. I enjoyed the hell out of that. 4-6, I should actually say. So, yeah, that was for the negative. So, audience gave it to Chief, Cassell gave it to Tyler, and AnCom gave it to the fucking audience. So, great job, you guys. I enjoyed it. It was everything that I hoped it was going to be, and it was the most entertained that I've been in a while. So, thank you both for bringing it. Now,
I told you I'd bring some fire to make it not boring.
Yes, you did.
I hope
Tighten up that fucking collar next time. You look like a
it
fucking
looks,
mess,
it looks
bro.
fantastic.
You
it looks
look like a
fantastic.
drunk.
This is a quint.
Save that for the after party, gentlemen. All right, so we're gonna roll straight into the last debate now. Like I said, and Desperado, are you still there? Yes, you are. Very cool. Game Boy, are you still there?
Give me a second. My computer crashed.
Yep. That's fine.
Circa's in the lounge.
Yeah, no, I know. Like I said, I feel bad because Circa was late. Circa didn't respond. Circa didn't tell me anything. I love Circa to death. He's going to get in here for the after party. I actually asked him to see if he could find a prompt with that Vince Wilson guy who was down there as well. See if they could do a quick impromptu debate. But I guess the Vince Wilson guy has disappeared. So that said,
Okay, I'm ready.
Word. So I'm not going to ask Desperado to come in here and cover and then ask him to leave. So we're just going to go ahead and bring him in afterwards. Welcome in, first time chatter. All right. So last debate of the night. Let me get the prompt up. And this one is going to be just as interesting to me as the first one, as all of them are. I mean, because ultimately you guys are here to entertain me. The prompt is something that I'm not too familiar with, so I'm hoping to learn something myself. Is the social contract theory valid? Now, on the affirmative, we have Desperado-Sensei up there on the top with, like I said, the cool hat. And down there, oh, you went from MLK to OJ? Dude, really? Okay. To OJ Simpson in the bottom.
Both represent very important parts of the African American community. One was the greatest running back of all time. Let's give him a...
Stop, Game Boy. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up there one more time. Is the social contract theory valid? We have Desperado-Sensei in the top. We have Game Boy down in the bottom. Desperado, are you ready first?
I can go first, but if Game Boy would like to start the negative, he's more than welcome to.
We generally go to the Aff first, so I'm going to keep it with you, sir.
Okay, then I will do it. 3
minutes is on the clock. Use as much as you need to. Go ahead and start whenever you're ready. The clock will go with you.
Let's start with a simple reality. We do not live in the woods by ourselves. We live in a world with billions of other people, and because of that, we have a choice. We can either live in a world where the person with the biggest stick wins, or we can live in a world where we agree on some basic rules so we can all get along. The social contract isn't some dusty ancient document in a museum. It's a simple common sense agreement that says, I won't hit you, you won't hit me. Instead, we'll both follow the law and see if we can both make this work, raise our families, and feel safe. It's the basic deal that makes modern life possible. Now, Game Boy might say, I never signed a contract, but let's be honest, we all sign it every single day. When you drive on a road that you didn't pave yourself, when you buy food that was inspected by the government, and when you call 911 because, there's an emergency, you are participating in a deal. In everyday life, we call this fairness. You can take all the benefits of living in a civilized society, the internet, like electricity systems, and like safety, whether it be fire or police, and then turn around and say, well, the deal isn't valid when it's time to follow a rule or pay tax. It's a two-way street. We give up a little bit of total of do whatever I want freedom, and in return, we get a world that actually functions. The most important part of this theory is that it puts us, the people, in charge. Before this came along, people thought kings were like chosen by God or did whatever they wanted. The social contract flipped that. It says government has the power only because we let the government have that specific job. And think of this like hiring a contractor to fix your house. If they do a good job, the contract stays. If they stop doing a job or start stealing from you, the contract is broken. You fire them. That's what democracy is. It's us ultimately checking on the contract. It's the only way to have a government that isn't a bully. At the end of the day, the social contract is valid because it works. It's the reason we aren't living in constant fear of our neighbors. It's the reason we have rights that aren't actually written down and protected. And it's not a perfect system because humans aren't perfect, but it's the best deal we've ever come up with. If we throw out the social contract, we're back to survival of the fittest. And I don't think any of us actually want to live in that world. I urge you to support the affirmative.
All right. And we're now going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock for you, Game Boy. Cross-examination time. Use the time as you see fit. I'll start the clock when you do.
What is the social contract?
The social contract is an agreement between two individuals that leads to a mutual outcome.
Isn't that a contract? What's the social contract? What
social contract? What makes it different? It's an inherent understood thing between two parties that they both believe will be beneficial without actually having to put pen to paper or make a verbal agreement.
So how is that stopping it from being the survival of the fittest? Isn't the survival of the fittest a social contract?
Survival of the fittest a social contract? No, I think it's a natural construct within like the biological world.
Yeah, but if I say overpower you and people respect my power over you as something implicit in something that basically, if parties agree that my power over you is valid and just, is that not a social contract between the people around me and me over my ability to conquer and control you?
Well, that depends. Do you believe in living in a world like Mad Max 2 Thunderdome, where, you know, two men enter, one man leads?
Why is that related?
Kind of
I asked you a question and you're avoiding it.
Which question? Please restate the question.
Isn't a hierarchy of survival of the fittest where everyone respects my ability to control people based off how strong I am and how easily it is for me to conquer others? Isn't that a social contract where parties around me agree that I have the ability to control you?
No, I think that is mandate by fear.
Well, if they agree to it, I mean, if I'm not conquering them, do they have any reason not to agree to that?
Fear.
All right, that's time. I'm going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock for you, Game Boy. Start the clock when you're ready, sir.
Mm-hmm. Low key, I don't really agree that the social contract is just two parties. I think most people, especially him, when he's referring to, okay, well, before that, the government got its right from like the monarchy or whatever. And he's saying, oh, that stopped at one point. He's not saying that we automatically all agreed in social contracts. If he's going to have that broad definition that's been around forever, and it didn't stop us from having the survival of the fittest or a monarchy where we didn't have implicit rights, that's just not how it's operated. Like, we usually point to the Declaration of Independence, where to secure these rights, the governments are instituted among men, deriving their power from the consent of the governed. Yep, I really didn't consent. I just accepted the circumstances I was under. I can't tacitly agree to the services provided if I'm forced to pay to them or they are monopolized. I can't likely avoid the justice system if there's no alternative. And if the justice system is enforcing other laws like regulating the roads, regulating this, forcing me to do this or forcing me to do that, even stopping me from killing someone, that's me participating in a system that exists regardless of whether I agree to it. It's a social agreement, sure, but it's not the consent. The government's instituted among men regardless of the consent of the governed. And I think that's really not being taken for granted. I think there is this complex old document saying what the social contract is, even dating to like Rawls and them. You don't say social contract simply as a social agreement between two parties. You're saying it's specifically where a government or institution that is allowed to do certain things in protection of your rights, which I don't think is a fair agreement. I think to make it as broad as possible and use these kind of catchphrases of this or that, this or that. What if you had no rights? Well, the social contract stops that. What if you had this monarchy? Well, the social contract stops that. But then having a broad agreement of something that could have existed with those things that he's describing. I just sorry, lost my train of thought. Something popped up on my computer. It's not even like a contract because a lot of the institutions which derive their power from a social contract exist before I'm born, take their power from the consent of the governed before I was born. It's not reinstituted when I agree to it. It just exists. It simply does exist. And you have to prove this consent or agreement that's constantly renewing itself without anyone explicitly agreeing to it. It's not like an implicit agreement like with regular contracts because I'm not voluntarily engaging in those services half the time.
That's time.
You
All right, so we're going to go ahead and put 2 minutes on the clock for you now. 2 minutes to you, Desperado. Go ahead and cross-examine, ask the questions you need to.
So if you agree that because you weren't born here, you don't necessarily need to, well, that
I
the
was born
government
here.
had, well, that because you were born here and you didn't necessarily agree to what the government is doing here, that you shouldn't have to follow the rules, correct?
That's not what I said.
Then what did
I
you
said
say?
I just didn't consent to it.
Okay, so which country would consent to something that you would agree to like that?
What are you saying? Can you rephrase?
You want to live in a country that agrees with your ideology,
That's not what I said.
correct? Okay, well, you said that you
I'm
don't
fine
want
living
to
in a
live.
country that doesn't derive its consent from the government.
Okay, because you can expatriate.
Yeah,
Expatriation
but
is allowed.
I'm just simply saying no government derives its consent from the governed because it's not possible. It's not
How is it not
possible for
possible?
me to, if you put, say, laws in a justice system imposed on a minor, saying I can't
Mhm.
drink or smoke, which are totally fair, and we can both agree, hey, maybe a 6-year-old shouldn't drink or smoke. But we
Mhm.
still say that a minor can't consent at these ages, and that's why we have those laws. Then
Mhm.
why are laws in place by a government or an institution that derives its consent from the governed if I'm being governed and can't consent?
Because you're being governed and you can't consent, because the government hasn't chosen whether you can consent or not. So my
Well, then
main
it doesn't
question here
derive
is
its power
my
from
main
the
question here is in the absence of a social contract, how are property rights enforced between two neighbors who have a dispute?
I think the government can exist without a social contract, and I think it has existed without a social
I
contract.
think that's contradictory to what you were saying before.
I'm going to go ahead and just put
How?
10 minutes on the clock. Y'all just roll straight into it. Go ahead.
How?
How can we, in essence, not have the government be involved in the livelihood of the citizenry and still be able to follow or to find a
The social
a way to
contract
enforce?
is not the social contract is not the existence of the government, but rather a theory on why the government exists and what the rights extend to that the government does. I believe the government exists in spite of any theory we have on it, such as the social contract, and exists basically evolutionary from basic family and political structures that came before it. Like a clan evolved into a microstate, evolved into a bigger state, evolved into an empire. The majority of sociological people have thought of this. I don't think we need this grand philosophical moral theory that was in place mainly to contradict, say, the monarchy and come in during the Glorious Revolution mainly, just so that we can have a justification for the state now. We can simply say the state has a moral reason to exist and thus should continue to exist without putting up this consent to the governed stuff that makes no logical sense in our modern day understanding of what it means to consent.
So, but here, but here's the thing: the government itself, the like in essence, like the Constitution is a living document that changes over time. So, if
Okay.
something does not work in the social contract, because social contract and social contract theory tend to be a living thing and not something that is solidified. And it's ever evolving with the times. The government is a way to enact this social contract on people in a fair and balanced way.
No, the social contract is an agreement with the government, and the government has to maintain its
A social contract is
part
an
of the
agreement
social
between
contract.
two individuals, the government and the individuals, and the individuals and the government. It's an
Exactly.
agreement between
So
all
I have to
three
maintain
separate
my part of the
parties.
deal. No, that's
Yes.
no one's ever had that view. Like, can you tell me what the origins of that view of the social contract? Because that's just not simply what the vast majority of people say. The social contract, like Hobbes and them and Rawls and them, was there's a sovereign party and there's an individual non-sovereign party, and the people agree to give up some self-sovereignty for that sovereign to protect them and reinstate a singular act of order, whether that's a set of laws or orders from that sovereign. I don't see it as two individuals, like you say.
Right? But the difference is that sovereign was a mandate by God, and a government is a mandate from the people. Like the
The
people that
government is a
those
sovereign.
positions are actually elected by the people themselves. Somebody who is a sovereign is somebody who is like a monarch is a direct derivative from what is, or not derivative. It is somebody who has been mandated by heaven to have that position. There's a big difference between somebody who has a mandate from heaven and somebody that is elected there from the people of the same, in essence, community to be in that position. There's no way to really square that circle.
Yeah, that's just not what a sovereign is. You're thinking of an absolute sovereign. Like, I just Googled it now. Webster says one that exercises supreme authority within a limited sphere and cites the US as an example, having sovereign over the canal. Like, they're the de facto sovereign. Sovereign can just mean having
Which canal
authority
are you
over.
talking? Which canal are you talking about?
I didn't look at the exact definition, but I'm just stating the sovereign is someone who has an authority over an area.
It would be really important to know which canal that is, because if it's something up by Lake Superior or like the Great Lakes, that's one thing. But if you're talking about the Panama Canal, that's an entirely different thing. And there's like,
Okay.
there's historical background there. So
I'm just
whatever
trying to
canal
cite
you're
a
talking
definition
about,
of
it's
what
important.
sovereign is. You are saying sovereign as explicitly monarchical, and I'm saying sovereign is much more broad. And you are simply saying, "Oh, we're moving past the monarchy." Yet you're giving such a broad definition of what the social contract is and what the agreement with the people is, and saying, "Okay, if you don't believe in this broad definition of what the social contract is, you must agree in what a monarchy is. You must agree in where I have to opt into it when laws can just exist." People who deny the social contract don't deny the idea of, okay, we need a government that has a limited constitution or a limited agreements or this or that. Max Weber, Nozick, all these people have broad views of what it could possibly be. Even Burke had a broad definition of what it could be, but they all dismissed the social contract as a weird and distorted quote unquote voluntary agreement between the people and their government to instate the protection of their rights or well-being, which has just never happened throughout history, doesn't happen now. If the government acts, it's not done out of my direct consent, regardless of if I approve of it or if I
Do you
don't
believe in
approve of it.
estoppel?
Can you explain?
So basically, what estoppel is like what is it? Well, used in law is that if you accept the benefits of an agreement, you are legally estopped and from denying the existence of that agreement.
Can you rephrase?
Okay, so like as an example, if you take your car on a public road, you understand that you're using a public good at the moment that you get on the road, whether or not you agreed or consented to like the public road being built.
Oh yeah, an implied contract.
Right. That's well, or tacit consent.
Yeah, but it's
Uh,
tacit consent
so
where there's no alternative. I'm forced to pay for these services regardless. If I refuse to pay for these services, then
you can
now what? I'm
expatriate.
arrested and
You're
I'm forced to
perfectly
use
no.
public
You're
jail? I mean,
you're
yeah.
it's easy. Most democracies in the world allow for expatriation. You can leave and move to whichever country you want
Yeah,
to
and
move
move
to,
to
so you
another
don't have to worry
country that
about
will
that.
force me to use public services. Unless I'm going to Antarctica, which is still owned by countries and governments,
Sure.
there's really no way for me to get around it without living in the water. I'm not saying that we
Right,
should
but
just
you don't have to
totally
live here with
dismiss.
that problem. I'm just
No,
saying you can
you're
move and
you're
move
not
to a
getting
different
past my
location.
point. I'm not saying that we should just ignore the laws or that taxes should be voided. I'm simply saying that the social contract is not why these things exist. The government does not get its power from the people. You're not addressing that point. You're saying, well,
The
if
government
the
doesn't get
social
its power
contract,
from the people?
that's my point. That's the point I've been making. Yeah.
Okay, so then how is the government created?
Through the vast majority of the time, it's through domination, conquest. If it's not that, it's through
All right,
the
so which
no,
president goes
let
through
me continue
domination
my
and
point.
conquest to become
Let me
president?
continue my point. If it's not
Well, we only
that,
got 2 minutes
it's
left and you're taking a long
let me
time.
continue my point then. If it's not that, then it's clans leaders who organize into a broader social system or microstates evolving into a broader social system, or the evolution of the family into clans, into states. These are basic sociologically, like sociological reasons why the state forms. And then if the state already exists, do we acknowledge that we don't have direct power over it and that it's a separate organizational entity that acts separately from us, enacting laws onto us? So even then, it operates as if it doesn't need our consent. So,
I
like,
really need to
there's
find
not
out
even a
where
debate there.
Kansas's Thunderdome is for the 1st district so I can run. I really want to beat the shit out of my opponent. Just so I can be, you know, the congressman of the 1st district of Kansas, because there's no way to civilly do this whatsoever. Can you explain
Okay.
that to me?
Explain what?
Explain to me. Well, you just said that there's no way for us to create a government in essence
I didn't
that
say that. I didn't
No,
say that.
you had basically just said that in order for us to the government basically has absolute control over everybody here, and there's no way for us to influence it.
I didn't say that. I just said it acts as if it doesn't need our consent. We still have some power over it, but it doesn't derive its power from the people. That's what I said. The key word, derive
Then
its
how does
power.
it derives its power directly from the people? We vote. There are ballot measures.
Okay.
There are what is it? There
Okay.
are representatives. There are senators. We have like the president. The entire process of picking people for the Supreme Court. They have to go through a process
And
of
what if
going
the
through
government just
our
didn't
elected
want a
officials in
democracy
order to get to
anymore?
the Supreme Court.
And what if the government just didn't want a democracy anymore, or say, crazy idea, once they're elected, they don't do what the people want? This might be crazy, but like just because we put people in power doesn't mean that the power that they have is derived from the people. There can simply just be other people,
Mm-hmm.
and the power
And
would still exist within the government, right?
And that's a great thing of why we have 50 states, and all different 50 states have ways to
Okay,
go
but
about this.
That doesn't matter. Does the power exist regardless of the people in power?
Does the power exist regardless of the people in power?
Like,
Yeah.
does an executive order exist regardless of if it's Trump or Obama?
It does exist, but here's the difference. The
Okay,
difference
so
is
how is
the
the power
difference
derived
is
from the
the
people if it
difference is
pre-exists?
the difference is that even if these people decide to have the power currently now, as the system evolves, that power can be stripped from them and that power can be added to them at the same time. It's not like that Clinton had the exact same power as Bush Jr. had. It's not like Bush Jr. had the exact same power that Obama had. There
That
are
doesn't
changes that
matter.
happen over time. And
It
because
doesn't
the
matter,
system
though.
can change, that means that the people can control exactly how much power a president has, or how much power a congressman has, or how much power a senator has. It's an ever-changing system.
Okay, but the institutions in the government still exist and pre-exist the people living today. It's existed
Right?
for
Is it
nearly.
the exact same power?
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
How long has Congress's abilities to make laws existed?
Congress's abilities to, are you talking like make bills or make laws?
Yeah, make bills. Yeah.
Make bills? Congress's ability to make bills, I think it's ratified in the Constitution from when the
Oh,
country
yeah,
was
yeah.
founded.
Okay. So, how long has, let's say, the chief and commander of, like, the president controlling the military, quote unquote, that's
Mhm.
existed in the Constitution as well, right? Now, let's say if I
Ah,
voted Trump
yeah.
out of office and I'm,
Mhm.
well, like in 2020 and Biden comes in, is
Mhm.
the president still the leader of the military?
If you vote Trump out, like, what time period? Are
Like
you talking
2020.
December?
Yeah, is Biden
2020 in
the leader of the
December?
military?
In
It doesn't
December
matter.
after the election? Oh,
Yeah, sure.
well, it does. The time period does matter.
Okay,
So
if Trump
in
gets out of
2020,
office, is he still the leader of the military? Or is it the president of the United States?
well, Trump would get out of office in January. That would be where his last day would be. I
Okay,
think it's
great,
January
great, great.
20th.
We're running out of time here.
I know.
Sorry.
I need a clarification. That's why.
Not important. The power pre-exists the person we choose in office and will still be in. Never mind. I'll concede the rest of the time on my half.
All right, so we actually do have some questions from the judges this time.
Okay.
From the other judge, actually. So, first question is going to go to Game Boy, and I'm going to put a minute on the clock here for each of you guys. There's actually a total of 3 questions here, so we'll see how this all goes. So, Game Boy, to you first.
Okay.
Isn't society improving proof that the social contract exists, i.e., there is less war now than at any time in history?
I don't even know what that means.
Okay, so let me rephrase. So the fact that there is a general improvement in society over time, do you believe that that is evidence of the social contract in action?
No, the social contract is a theory in which is like how we got to the point we are at. The idea that we consented and among people and among man instituted a government to preserve our well-being and our rights. It's said in the Declaration. It's said in a whole bunch of like old English dudes and French dudes. It's like, it's a theory. The government existing is something separate of that. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I believe in the government. I believe in our laws. And I think that there is an ideal government that we should be striving to. I don't think we should depatronize or we should leave. I think, simply said, I disagree with the theory. I think we need a better theory or just a better understanding of our government and what it should accomplish.
All right. Now I'm going to look over at you, Desperado. If dictatorships like North Korea exist, does that mean that the social contract doesn't? So in other words, does the existence of authoritarian dictatorships not fly in the face of the idea of social contracts?
It can and it can't. So, as an example, some place like North Korea, where you have like defectors and whatnot, like giving like accounts of how the North Korean government violates the social contract. That's one thing. That's where I would point as that as an example of a failing social contract, or a social contract that needs severe reconstruction. But what I would say is that if you look at certain leaders' rule, like Charlemagne, for in instance, Charlemagne was considered to be like the quote unquote benevolent dictator. There is a chance that under that rule there was more of a social contract between people that was more agreeable in the whole. So I'm not going to rule out that a dictatorial regime means that the social contract is destroyed, but I'm not going to say that it's like in every case, but I'm not going to say that it's not possible.
Okay. And last question here from this judge. It looks like we got some questions coming in from the other judge now as well. Game Boy, if the government decided that there were no elections tomorrow, didn't the people give them the power to decide that?
Absolutely not. It exists separate of the people. If the people universally agree in America for the vast majority of cases, I'd say about 95%, that democracy is a good thing, that's just evident of that point. I think when we look at approval ratings, the only thing that's affecting is who's being voted into office. The government's going to do what the government does, and we see that constantly. If there's like a 35% approval rating or a 15% approval rating for a government's actions, oh my goodness, that's proof of that. I'm not saying that that's a good thing or anything like that. I'm being a realist here. It's just going to happen. If the government is against democracy, fuck the government. But we're not going to act like people gave its power to the government to do that. It's not even in the Constitution.
All right.
Anyway.
Now, this is going to be the same question to both of you. And I'm glad that the judge asked this because I was going to ask something similar. I would like for each of you, and we'll start with you there, Desperado, to please, once again, for the record, define the term social contract theory in your own words. Go ahead, Desperado.
Social contract theory is an agreement between either individuals, the government and individuals, or like it could be also like a government and incoming individuals at the same time. The agreement between them is that for a particular amount of freedom, you will receive a particular amount of security. So as it pertains to an agreement between individuals, there is a certain amount of freedom given up, and therefore to find a mutual agreement between individuals, and then there's an optimal outcome. It's the same thing with the government. If the government is given absolute authority, then the government will use that absolute authority. The people give up some of their freedom so that the government can enforce rules for everybody, while at the same time, the government isn't allowed to rule with absolute immunity with those rules.
Sounds good. Same question to you, Game Boy. In your words, please define the term social contract theory.
Okay. Don't like how I'm given 1 minute on this. Kind of like AnCom said at the beginning of this, beginning of the stream, like social contract is very broad, but the vast majority of cases I've seen it's people and like a base state, whether that's the veil of ignorance or the state of nature, agreeing to give up some authority over themselves, like self-governance and the such, to have a certain outcome that protects their well-being or freedoms. and maintains a certain amount of justice, or I think I've seen equality, but I'm just going to say fairness. The vast majority of times the government is seen as like a sovereign, not really the government with a set limited government or like an idealized form, but rather just any body that has a set of laws or will to protect the people. And that's what's being agreed upon.
Okay. All right. So that is all of the judge questions. We're going to go ahead and put 3 minutes on the clock now. Desperado, use as much of that time as you need to for your closing. I'll start the clock when you start talking, bud.
Just because you can't see the air doesn't mean that you aren't breathing. My opponent has spent the debate pointing out cracks in the ceiling of the state. They pointed out unfair laws and imperfect governments. But let's be very clear. Pointing out a leaky roof doesn't prove that the foundation of the house is invalid. In fact, it proves the opposite. We only know a law is unfair because we have a shared agreement, a contract, if you will, that says we deserve fairness in first place. Okay, the negative and Game Boy wants you to decide, or wants you to believe that without this invalid contract, we would somehow be more free. But let's look at what this actually looked like. Without a social contract, there is no right to property. There is only what you can hold onto with a fist. There is no right to free speech. There is only what the strongest person in the room allows you to say. The social contract is the only thing that turns might into right. It's the only thing that ensures that the weak have the same standing as the strong in a court of law. To call the social contract invalid is to say that legal rights don't exist, and that we should go back to a world where everyone is for themselves and no one is safe. This contract is invalid because this contract is valid because it is living. It's valid because when it's broken, we have the power to fix it. We have seen it happen throughout history, moving from world where a few had a say to a world where ideally everybody has a say. That isn't a sign of a failing theory. It's a sign of a successful one. It's a deal that is constantly being renegotiated to be fairer and more inclusive. And that, by definition, is a valid functioning system. In the end, you have to ask yourself, which world do you want to live in? Do you want to live in a world of the negative, a world where there are no rules, no shared obligations, no collective safety? Or do you want to live in a world of the affirmative? A world where we agree to look out for one another, follow a common set of rules, and hold our leaders accountable. The social contract is the reason we can have the debate today in peace. It is the reason we have a future to look forward to. It is the best and most valid deal humanity has ever made. For all of these reasons, I vote for the affirmative.
All right. And 3 minutes is on the clock for you, Game Boy. Bring it on home for us.
Okay. Pretty sure that was scripted before the debate, like last second, because that's not what I said at all. Like, I think just assuming that I was like an ANCAP and that it would be really easy to make a like anti-libertarian argument. Like, I do believe in the state. It's not like anything I've denied. I believe in it in spite of me not believing in the social contract even. I think we do need the state to maintain some shared idea of protecting property, protecting our lives, avoiding robbery, and the such. It doesn't matter like to what degree. I still believe in the state. Like, in spite of our wills or what we might do, the social contract doesn't exist. We didn't voluntarily choose the state in the past. It evolved from human nature with a whole bunch of evidence to back that. It's not a historically backed thing, nor is it morally backed. It's based off a weak theory that implies a tacit consent. When the things that are being provided and the services provided are only funded through either force or things we paid for, whether it's we in the general sense of people or things as in me with my taxes. It only got its power after forcing people or people naturally moving towards it. It wasn't a voluntary thing that I agreed to with tacit consent insofar that I'm forced to pertain to the services it provides. There are no alternatives to our currency. There's no alternatives to our justice system. These are monopolies. If Hershey's say, okay, we have the right to rob you because you buy our food, and they're the only people who can sell you anything in grocery stores, then it's not me consenting to them robbing me. They just simply are the ones providing everything, and I have no other choice. If they get their said consent from the people who form the government, then it's an inherited form of consent. If people in the past consented to the government's being formed, I did not consent to what it's being formed. If your parents agreed to something, you did not agree to something. It's very simple. Both forms of quote unquote consent that I've seen are both tacit, in which it has a monopoly over certain services that I can't avoid, or inherited, which is not seen in normal contract theory. I went into like the ideas of what forms a natural contract, and I didn't have to use one bit of it because we haven't gotten past what the social contract is. It's not a social agreement on what our standards of justice are. It's a social contract between us and the state. That is not fair.
And time. All right. So that concludes our final debate, everybody. That one was a little bit less fiery, although there was still some sparks in there. But I'm going to go ahead and drop the link here.
Sorry for spazzing. That was completely
You do
my
not
bad.
owe
I
me
got mad over
apologies.
nothing.
Homie, no apologies. So the vote is in the chat. Go ahead and click on that. Wow, that was fun. Go ahead and click on that and tell us who you think won this debate. Not just which position you believe in, or not just which one you think is has the sweetest voice, but who you believe was the most persuasive debater tonight. With that said, I'm going to go back over to you, AnCom, for the first go. Are you ready to go ahead and render judgment, my friend?
I am.
All right.
And I got to say, this was a frustrating debate for me to listen to, because the prompt was, is social contract theory valid? And the reason I wanted both participants to define social contract theory in their own words is because I was hoping that it might inspire them to focus a little more on the word theory and a little less on the social contract part of it. Because to my understanding, and I looked it up just to be sure that this was roughly accurate, social contract theory is the basic idea that we choose to live in groups and sacrifice some of the freedoms that that come from living in a group, because we accept that the benefits of group living outweigh the lost freedoms of group living. Whatever that looks like, whether it be under a king or a republic government or a warlord or whatever it is, like any form of group living falls under social contract theory. Otherwise, we're all just, nomads or, homesteaders or whatever, all doing self-sufficiency. So it was a little frustrating that we didn't delve into what the theory actually said. That said, I think the person who made the argument better about which case has more benefits to individuals and to groups as far as whether or not we should be living within this social contract would be Desperado. I think Game Boy made some really good counter arguments, but unfortunately it was a little bit an issue of arguing the abstract more than the concrete, and I think Desperado went a little bit in the other direction. I didn't like the argument of expatriation from Desperado, because that basically just boils down to, if you don't like it, just move, which I've never really liked as an argument. But, otherwise, I think the I think that he was more convincing in this case. So I'm going to give it to him 6-4.
Okay, 6-4 to the affirmative. Looking at you, Cassell. Where'd you land on this, bud?
I'm going to give it 7-3 to the affirmative. And
Okay.
I think for me, it's actually doesn't really tell the whole story because coming into it, I wouldn't have expected Game Boy to kind of make me think about it this much. But the fact that I asked more questions on this topic than any other, I think gives Game Boy a lot of credit because I think he made me think the most about whether or not the affirmative or the negative view on this was the right one. I think I agree a lot, basically all of what AnCom said. We just voted a little differently. I gave another point to Desperado there, but I think what he said really nailed it for me as well. Everything about kind of like the abstract there. I think if there was more time that Game Boy could kind of just talk on a single topic like this and delve in it a little bit more instead of in a debate style, I think he could maybe convince me because I'm really interested in finding out like, okay, if the social contract theory isn't what is and what is that called and what how does it work and all that. I just think in this format it was a little harder for him to get there for me, or at least to convince me. But I think they both did a really good job. So that's why I think the score on this is, I wouldn't look too much into that. I think it was actually a pretty even debate, honestly.
All right, 7-3 for the win goes to Desperado, walking in cold off the street. Now, I will actually say that I am also looking forward to the after party where Game Boy is going to be able to kind of articulate some of these ideas, and I think that there's a few people out in chat who are chomping at the bit to jump in here. Yeah, no, and that's fine. So we're gonna look at chat and see what chat voted. If you guys want to lock in your last few votes, there's another person in this conversation who's gonna spaz, and I just want to say that it's funny. Yes, spaz does not equal articulate. I just want to say that it's funny. This prompt was actually given to me by Grufus, and Grufus didn't get the debate. I did that on purpose, just so you know, Grufus, and I was very excited to see how this is all going to play out because of that. But so I know that he was literally banging his head against his fucking desk over there this whole time. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and look over at the results from the. It doesn't matter. Again, you've already won, Desperado, but we just want to see how badly you can rub his nose in it. I know, but we will. All right. And it looks like the results on that one are over fucking whelming. So yeah, it's Jesus Christ, 9-1 from the audience. 9-1 in favor of you, Desperado. That is actually the biggest audience.
Thank you, Kay, for voting for me. I appreciate it.
That is actually the biggest difference I've seen in the whole thing.
Actually,
now,
Game Boy, that was me, not Kay.
Real quick, I'm gonna go ahead.
He told me he was gonna vote for me too.
I'm gonna go ahead. Yeah, no, obviously you didn't even persuade him. So, for those of you who do not know, I only get one vote for the night, and that's my vote for who I think carried it the best, who I thought brought it and did the best job in the debate. And I want to say every single one of y'all was entertaining, and I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you guys as always. And I know that there is some fucking irony here, because earlier, Tyler said to Chief that he really wants to bury the hatchet and for them to move on. But I know that what I'm about to say is going to fucking ruin all of that, because I am giving the MVP of the night to Chief. And I'm doing it because Chief did what Chief does, but Chief was so perfect at it tonight. Chief, I've known Chief for several years now. I do not know a more succinct and professional troll. I don't know anybody who is more able to find the exact button to push to make somebody turn fucking purple. And the best part was he was able to do it with a smile and a soft voice the whole time. And so to me, for him to be able to manipulate and control his opponent the way that he did, I feel like that's got to get the fucking MVP vote for me. So good job, Chief. I appreciated it. All right. Now, that said,
my new chatter gave me the MPV award, so I win.
All right, that's
Gee
fine.
golly, gee golly, thanks, Horace.
Yeah, no worries. You know every word I said was true though, and I can hear the smirk on your face as you're thanking me. So, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and move on to the after party, everybody. For those of you who do not know, this is our opportunity to kind of get all of the stuff said that didn't get said. This is the part that's not going to show up on YouTube. So if you're not here for it live, you're not going to get to see it. Well, actually, I do allow subscribers to watch the VOD for like 2 weeks, so you guys can watch it and make clips and mock people. But everybody else, you're only going to get those debates.